You're listening to A Bit Later, a midlife stand-up podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ziegler, and I'm sitting down with comedians from across the globe to find out why they are pursuing stand-up comedy and what they are learning about themselves at this stage in their lives. Today, my guest is Kevin Kirklen. Kevin is a Dallas, Fort Worth born and raised rising talent in the Texas comedy scene. His quick-witted delivery and charm make him a favorite among every audience. As fifth-generation Texan, the attitude is big, the laughs are big, and so is his future. Let's get into the conversation with Kevin Kirklen.
I was born and raised in the Dallas area, a suburb of Dallas called Plano. I had a pretty decent family growing up. Everything was great. Ended up getting into comedy like during COVID, when everything shut down. One of the first things that opened up that you could go do outside of the house was the Addison Improv here in town. And my friends and I had to be at work every day for our jobs, so we were already out. And it's like, we want to go do something to blow off some steam. We're like, let's just buy tickets to comedy, because we were fans, and I had been writing and always been interested in it. And we just started going. Like every comic that came through town that we liked, we would go. And we just got where that was a regular thing for us. And it's something that me and my brother and my best friend just have kept doing. And my best friend has worked for a big comedy festival that started up in New York. And he dragged us to it in Las Vegas a couple years ago. And we were out there, and it was like the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I was like, you know what? I should just do this. Like, I love it so much. Like, I would sit there and watch these guys, and like, it'd be so much fun to be able to be on stage and get people to laugh. And so when we got back, we found an open mic here and just started going.
That's really cool. I'm assuming you mean Skankfest.
Yeah.
Of the festival. Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good. So who do you remember seeing at that as improv when you started?
One of the first ones we went and saw was Mark Normand, who I always think is one of the best, just like from a math perspective, joke writers out there. Joe List, Santino. I mean, I've kept a list. We've probably been to 100 shows there.
That's awesome.
And then we started going to some of the other clubs as we started getting into doing it more regularly and stuff, seeing some other things. So I'm really fortunate that if I were to tell you the list of comics I haven't seen, there's like 3 that I are still on my list that I would like to see. So been very fortunate to be able to go do that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And just sorry if you said this. The first open mic was also at the Addison Improv. Is that where you started? No.
My first open mic was at Backdoor Comedy Club here in Dallas, and it's a legendary club. It's the longest running open mic in the Southwest. They've been doing comedy since like 1988. And it's a clean club, which was the perfect spot for me to start wanting to be a clean comic. It's just a great hang. It's one of the most popular mics in Dallas. And it's a really great little club that's invests in developing comics. Like, and they run the club really rigidly. So it's like, you have to show up on time. You got to sign up ahead of time. Like they make you check all those boxes to learn how, to present yourself when you're out and treating comedy like a job, So, I've stayed affiliated with them. I'm fortunate I'm able to produce shows there. I have a Sunday showcase. It's a Rising Stars of Dallas Comedy that I've been producing. And those have been great. Our second one's coming up this month. And I love Backdoor. It's a great club.
That's great. I saw the Rising Stars flyer online. I didn't realize you were producing that too. I saw that you were on the showcase. So that's awesome. So let's take it back a little bit of like your first open mic, and you were a big fan of comedy. Obviously, I'm assuming before COVID. And how old were you when you first got up?
So I would have been 39 when I started. It was December of 2024.
Okay.
Was my first open mic, and I was terrified. Like I had stuff that I had written and had workshopped it with my buddies, and I didn't really know how to go about it. And so I just wrote down what I thought was going to be my 3-minute set and got up there, and like I got a couple of laughs, and I was at the very end of the list. There's 3 people left in the room, but like I got a couple people to laugh, and it was like, okay, that felt really cool. I just want to do more of that, Everyone starts off rough. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah.
even getting a couple laughs, I think when it's going rough, it's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna do this again. It's like it's difficult to like walk away from it and say like, oh, I can't do this. I think once you get those laughs, it just draws you in. I know everyone says it's like addicting, but that is true.
Agree. Yeah.
Because
Totally hooked.
you're kind of in competition with yourself at that point, and I think that's what drives it. So where do you draw your material from when you were preparing that set? What were you kind of thinking about
I
to
had,
make
since
that?
we had been going to comedy for several years, I had just started writing stuff down in my phone, things I thought were funny, something that came up in a conversation. It's like, oh, that could be a stand up bit. And so I had a bunch of stuff written when I started. And so I went through and kind of cherry picked the stuff. And for me, I'm a big guy. I like to do a lot of family material, a lot of stuff about being big. Those are just things that are naturally easy for me to talk about. And so my first couple jokes were about being too fat to do 12 steps at Alcoholics Anonymous and some things like that. And so I had some good stuff that like was good starter things for me, and it's led me to develop more of stuff that fits in that same sphere of topics.
Okay. So like growing up, did you have any other creative outlets or had you performed in any other way before?
I did like band and music. I played guitar for a little while, none of it really particularly successfully. I did sports growing up. I played a lot of
Mhm.
hockey, which is weird for being in Dallas, but did that for most of my life. But no, not really a lot in the performative aspect. And so one of the things I've had to learn getting into stand-up comedy is the performance side of it. I'm naturally a pretty decent writer. I've always liked words and reading and writing, and so that part was good. But when I got up on stage, it's like, wow, there's so much more performance here than you expect there to be. Um, as somebody that wasn't, doing theater or improv or stuff like that at any point.
That's a really good point. I hadn't talked about that with anyone before, but as you raised that of like, obviously our speech and the cadence is kind of the trick, right? As like Jim Florentine would say. But I think when you talk about the performance aspect, yeah, like not everybody can be Stephen Wright and just so chill. Like you have to have some oomph to it. For the most part, if it's that's and that's how the confidence comes through. I think is that the kind of like what you experience as well. Is that the feedback that you'll get?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I didn't know how to approach a lot of that stuff, and I took a comedy summer camp last summer. And a local guy that's a comedy instructor here did a class specifically on performance techniques, and he ran through like 20 things, everything from like choking the microphone to
Hmm.
just some different speech patterns, ways to deliver a joke and say things multiple times differently. And there's a lot of just little bitty things that were like, oh, I see other comics do that, and now it makes sense. Like that's part of like it's not necessarily natural for them. They're building that into how they're doing their delivery, and just things like smiling, like while you're on stage. Like how many times have you been at an open mic where someone's up there with pretty decent material, but they couldn't look any less interested to be there? And it's like you want to get people's attention. Your body language and performance helps. It can really punch up mediocre material.
Yeah, that's really true because I feel like I just heard something like Titus. There's a Titus interview going around. He said Dana Carvey once told him like your material is good. You don't look at the audience. And he said, I do look. He said, no, you're looking at the back of the room. He's like, start making. So I've been hearing that stuff. And like the more and you've been doing comedy longer than I have. I'm only like 6 months in like actually performing. So it's kind of interesting to see that impact of like when you do, I don't want to interact with the audience. I'm not going to do crowd work, but like, but I get that. That's a really, really great point, of that coming through and like what the audience picks up from you. Did you feel like I wanted to talk about hockey, obviously in Dallas, but like as an athlete, do you feel like was that sort of is that sort of something that comes through like a leadership quality that people gravitate toward?
Yeah, and if it's too early to jump in talking a little bit about why I'm kind of glad I'm starting at 40, that's a good point. So I've learned
No,
so
no.
much in my life, including sports, how to be a team player. And at 40, I have a lot of professional experience to fall back on, and so there's all these things, and plus just the life experience you've had. You have a more developed perspective than Kevin at 20-year-olds would have had, and being able to understand, like so much I think of one of the ways I've been able to start building my comedy career is networking. And I'm a people person. I like to build groups. I run a writing workshop on Discord on Wednesdays for comics that are local here, and it's been great. I've been doing that for a little more than a year. I started that pretty early on, and just understanding how to interact with people, things like following through on things, delivering on the things people ask you to do when you need to show us, providing a headshot at the right time. It's just those little things you learn as you mature and grow up to make you a little more professional, and it makes you easier to work with. It makes you more of a guaranteed thing. Showing up on time as a producer, like there's nothing worse than like, okay, the guy that's supposed to do 20 minutes at the top of my show is not here and we're starting in 5 minutes. Like,
Right.
So realizing where there are those opportunities to like, how do you lean into the relationships you built? How do you know the right people to keep interfacing with and where to invest your time? Those are all valuable skills, I think, that I wouldn't have had at a younger age that I do now that I'm 40 and doing comedy.
Yeah, I get that. And like, I feel like it's more, you're better at vetting people with age and understanding that. And you may have heard this on a previous episode, so I know I'm repeating myself, but I produced shows like a decade ago, but I never really jumped into like really going to mics and stuff like that. I would get up and do a few minutes at my own shows. But yeah, everything you just said rings true. like the nerve wracking stuff. It also, aside from life experience, getting older, it's kind of like, having careers and things like that. It's like, how to show up, as you said. And also, I can avoid those pitfalls because I knew what comics did that bothered me. So that's pretty cool. So you're producing your own shows. You're producing the showcases on Sunday nights.
Yeah, that's a new thing. I've done a couple of other shows. My family, my parents live about an hour north of me in a small town, Sherman and Denison, and there's no comedy club up there. And so when I first started, I was like, I'm gonna go take comedy up there and produce a couple of shows up there. And we had great turnouts. The crowds up there are amazing. So I kind of got to cut my tooth doing that. Was looking for something closer to home, that wasn't as much of a haul to get all the gear up there and everything. And fortunately, like have been very blessed to have a good relationship with Backdoor Comedy and get the opportunity to do that in a club that already exists. It's 15 minutes from the house, and it makes it really easy to commit to being there a lot. So
Yeah, producing your own shows can be grueling. So having your own setup already in a club is paramount. That's awesome. So growing up, you said pretty like, normal, I'm assuming like Midwestern kind of life, but what would you say maybe inspired you, if you think back on it, like to take this path as like where your what in your roots, excuse me, is kind of like there for stand up?
I think I get a lot of my humor from my dad. And unfortunately, I have a very close relationship with my whole family. I have one brother and then my mom and dad. And my dad has always used humor. He's shy. I'm the extrovert of the family. And so dad's always used humor to break the ice. And at some point, if he's around a group of people, they'll all be laughing at stuff he's saying. He has a very corny dad joke sense of humor, lots of puns, stuff
Hmm.
like that. So I end up like I love a groan as much as a laugh. But I got a lot of that from him. And so we just naturally have always made jokes, cracked jokes as a family around each other. And I really enjoy making people smile, making people laugh. I'm a people pleaser. And so comedy is just the best way to do that. Like if I can go and say some things and make people I don't know laugh, like that's such a wholesome, great, fun feeling to have. Who doesn't want to hang
Yeah.
out with their friends and laugh,
Hey, I agree. I agree. It's the best, and I like the way you put a positive spin on people pleasing. That's good. I need to take that one from it. It does make sense. It's better than a lot of the conversation of like us wanting to be validated by being on stage. It's like we also want to make other people laugh and make the audience happy as well. That's great. Um, so not to be fixated on the hockey thing, but I really would have like been like, okay, Texas football athletic guy. So like, why ice hockey or Dallas
I think
Stars?
both of my parents are from Texas, and I think when I was a kid, 5 or 6 years old, there was an ice hockey game on TV one night, and it was like, I really want to do that. And in the early '90s, the Dallas Stars had just moved to town,
Right.
and in Texas, in North Texas, there was a telecom boom. So like Nortel and all these other companies had moved down here, And there were all these Northerners from Minnesota and Canada and all that kind of stuff. They wanted their kids to play hockey. So they built hockey rinks. And we just happened to be the right timing where I grew up in it. And I got to play. I was very fortunate to be able to do that. I reffed more than 1,000 games for USA Hockey. So I have tons of reffing material I haven't even started to write yet. I'm not good enough to do some of it yet, but I have a gold mine of stuff there I'll get to at some point. But that's just what we did. My brother played. My dad played as we were growing up, and then I ended up playing a beer league team with my dad later in life, and just that was what we did. That we were a hockey family.
That's really great. I wouldn't have, yeah, that's a nice slice of history that I wouldn't have known about it and realized
Yeah,
that influx from the north that makes that completely makes sense. That's really cool how that worked out. So in terms of writing, what's your process like? What's you like?
yeah. I've really settled into something kind of nice. I mean, I put everything in my phone notes. When I pull ideas down to write them, I'll pull them out and put them in a joke book. And then brainstorm there. And then I have a book that I write, like the full form joke, when I'm ready for like my stage stuff. I really don't like taking notes on stage with me. There's only one mic that I go to that I will take notes up with, and it's mostly comics, and it is just somewhere I try out brand new stuff. So on Mondays I do that open mic. If I have good stuff there and I'm available on a Tuesday, there's another mic I'll go do. But then I run my writing workshop on Wednesdays, and so if something that I've written does well on Monday, I'll run it through the writing workshop with my friends and be like, hey, how can I sharpen this up? Any other tags or angles you guys can think of? And then I'll take it to Backdoor, my favorite mic, on Thursdays. If it does well there for a week or two in a row, Backdoor usually gets a handful of audience members in there on their open mic. So it's a good test for material in front of crowd. If it does there, joke does well there a couple weeks in a row, it usually winds up in my weekend stuff. And it's made a
Okay,
nice flow to get through the week of like introduce a new joke, workshop it a little bit, try it out, take it back the next week if it needs some help. But I do that, and it's just whatever pops into my head goes into the phone. And when I do sit down to write, just pull out whatever seems interesting to work on.
that's great. And so you're able to get out 4 night or 3 to 4 nights a week, pretty much.
Yeah, fortunately, yep.
Yeah, that's great. What's the scene like in Dallas? How has that grown, or what have you seen change?
I was really surprised. I talked earlier about being a big comedy fan, and if you had told me like we would go to the Improv, we would go to Hyenas, we would go to the big clubs here, and if you had told me like you should go see a show at Backdoor Comedy Club, I'd be like I've never heard of this place. And the biggest surprise to me has been how much I've really enjoyed getting into the local comedy scene here in Dallas. Like we have an incredibly good scene. I think we're really a hidden gem. There's probably 400 to 500 active working comics in the whole metroplex of 8 million people. Maybe a few more than that, but there's no fighting for stage time. You can get on every night of the week on a mic. Some nights you can get multiple mics here. And everyone is just so supportive and so great to hang out with. Like I've heard things about New York and LA and Austin being a little more cutthroat, and people fighting with each other for stage time and spots, and we don't have that in Dallas. And I think we have 20 comedy clubs that produce shows in DFW. It's
That's really
huge.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice. Yeah.
And there's almost a Fort Worth side of town and a group of guys over there, and there's a Dallas side of town. Being a Twin City, that's how Fort Worth is too far for anything. But it's so great and supportive, and there's such a great cast of comics here. It's been really easy for me to find guys my age that are getting into it and build the relationships to carpool the mics and run the writing workshop and things like that. It's very supportive. It's an awesome scene. Really
Nice.
great. Yeah.
Is there a different kind of sensibility between the Dallas guys and the Fort Worth guys?
Not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets along pretty well, but just the
Yeah.
way that the city's built and the opportunities, there's not a lot of crossover
Hmm.
in terms of the groups. And so it's fun every once in a while when I have some time off of work or something to try to get out to the Fort Worth side and meet some people over there
Got it.
and all that. But I've gotten to do that once or twice. Um, but yeah.
Okay. So you said there's more comics or a good group of comics like in our age group where you are in terms of like the younger folks. How does that mesh? And maybe what are some, I've asked this to some people, like what are some pitfalls maybe that you see people fall fall into as young when they're younger.
Yeah, everybody gets along really well for the most part. The backdoor open mic is kind of one of viewed as their open mic is viewed as one of the more beginner open mics in town, but it is really probably the best hang of any open mic because you get high level comics that love the club that are dropping in to work on stuff, and in a clean club. I think we're so fortunate to have a clean club in Dallas. I'm not on a clean comedy crusade, but having a day job, I would prefer not to say anything on stage that potentially could impact that. And so it's like I'll just write clean, and I think clean's a little tougher to write, but I like the challenge of it. And if you can really do well with clean material, it just feels great. And in terms of the ages, everyone gets along real well. The things you see are kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier, where it's like you can see people, and this isn't really necessarily inherent to one age group, but you will see there are folks that are taking it more seriously than others, and some guys are just down there to hang out and sling a few jokes, and then there's people that are like, okay, I've written my material, I'm filming my set. You see their bits develop, quickly, and move on, and so it's more of a commitment level, but I don't think it's tied to any one particular trait.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like very similar to Philly. I think really like it's New York, Austin, and probably to a lesser extent at this point LA, where you probably run into, like you said, that cutthroat stuff. And it's nice that we have all this accessibility now to technology where you don't have to be concentrated into one of those cities to do something with your comedy. So that's really cool to see and hear. Um, what was the leap like, or rather, how did it feel when the first time you got paid to do comedy?
It was pretty cool. My goal, my first goal for my first year in comedy was to try to get one paid gig. And I wound up, especially near the end of it, having several, and it felt really cool to be able to do that. But the amount of pay you're getting for the small shows and showcases and bar shows doesn't even offset gas or drinks or any of that stuff. But it felt like a cool acknowledgement to be on that opportunity. Part of when I wanted to get into comedy was like I would love to be someone's entertainment on a Friday night, like I see these guys do for me all the time.
Hmm.
So for me, it was I was more excited to have the opportunities and to have the experience, and to build the connections and prove that hey, I can be funny in front of a crowd. Like those were the bigger objectives for me. But we're very fortunate to have a couple of really cool opportunities at my first year.
That's great. That's really great. Um, and what are your comedic and artistic goals to be a comedian? And is there anything beyond that that you have dreams about?
Yeah, I think stand up comedy is my passion, and I would love to be able to be in a spot where I could retire into doing this full time. And I know that's a long way away, and I know it's a ton of hard work to get there. But as I'm thinking about what do you want to do with the rest of your life at 40, we're all having that conversation with ourselves.
Sure.
Like, okay, well, I'm a single guy, so having a job where I could travel and go see and do things and then do some stand-up comedy while you're there and be able to do that's not an opportunity that everyone gets to do. And so there's a part of me that would love to have had kids and all that stuff, but that probably isn't in the cards for me. So this seems like something really fun that I love doing, that would make for some really cool experiences as I'm getting a little older.
Makes sense. Yeah, man, I'm with you. I don't have children either, and I'm curious of how comics try, especially open mics, try and do it with kids. That's it's tough. Yeah. So it's nice that you said I can relate to a lot of what you were saying there. And have you traveled beyond Dallas to do shows? I mean, outside of the Texas area?
I got fortunate. I have a friend. Can I shout out a friend? Is that cool? Or
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
right,
Always.
I'm going to shout out my buddy Cody Beeson at 928 Comedy. He moved. I met him. He'd been doing comedy for a couple years. He moved to Dallas right about the time I started. He's a year older than me. We ended up just hitting it off, and he produces shows back in Yuma, Arizona. There's
Oh,
not a
cool.
comedy club there, but he had been producing shows there, and he books great headliners out there. And last summer, he asked me if I wanted to tag out there and do a spot. And I got to do a 5 minute spot in his big room there in Yuma. And it was super amazing. Like it was really cool. I had a good set, fortunately, and had a ton of fun. So I did get to travel in my first year to do a spot, which was neat. So very fortunate for that. That was a super cool experience.
Solid. That's really great. Um, So, shifting a little into the comedy experiences, I've asked comics like specific questions as to what they've, some stories that they can laugh about now. What's something maybe that went wrong at a show, either for you or you saw something else happen that you could laugh about now?
I I thought about telling this story, so this is a good opportunity to do it. My fourth set that I ever did, I had done three open mics at Backdoor, and then there was a comedy club that opened in Plano, and they had their opening night, and it was like they have a showcase of comics, and then they're doing bucket pulls between the comics. And so it was like, hey, let's go down and check it out. It's a new club in Plano. It's like right in my backyard. So me and my best friend went down there to watch the show, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going to put my name in the bucket. Why not? And the show starts, and the comics that are going up there are like, this is way stronger quality than an open mic. And I'm like, I'm brand new. And it's like, this room is full, and the club owners are there, and there's bookers there for other clubs and established comics. And I'm like, I probably should go take my name out of the bucket. But then I was like, I don't want to walk over there in front of like the club owners and take my name out because that's going to look horrible. Maybe they just won't pull me. And sure enough, we get to like the last set of bucket pulls, and they pull me like second to last. And I was freaking out. I had barely 3 minutes of stuff to even say. And I was like shaking. And I get up on this stage, and it's in front of, I was probably 200 people in the room. And it's the fourth time I've ever been on stage. And I fortunately had a couple of little callback references to the comics right in front of me and got them to laugh. And then my jokes had at least a punch or two in them. So I survived. But I was terrified. Like I couldn't even sleep that night. It was like the adrenaline rush and dump from that. It was ridiculous.
That's a tough spot. I mean, even at open mics, if you're at an open mic and you feel like the quality is so much better than what you have going up, it's like obviously like less pressure, but that's a situation. That is a high pressure situation.
Yeah,
But glad it
was
worked
wild.
out.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a if a comic does a callback to what you did previously, is that like more of a sign of respect, or is it depend on the circumstances?
I'm the least offendable person you'll ever meet. And so I think if someone's going to reference like a joke that I did, and I'm in the phase in my comedy career, I'm hosting a lot too. So I'm always looking for like,
Yeah.
what quip can I throw back at this to get the crowd laughing between comics, So I love that. I'm all for it. I think when we're up there, we're putting on a show for whoever is there. And if we can work off of each other's material to make the audience laugh again, I think that's great. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It happened to me. That's why I was curious when
Okay.
you said that about yeah. So it's like the headliner at one show. It was like a showcase kind of mic. Had referenced a couple of things, but I was talking to him after. I'm like, well, it got some laughs, and I got some laughs earlier, so I guess it was a good thing. Yeah, so he was like 8 comics later, so something stuck out. But that's cool. Yeah, I was talking to I think the last episode or 2 episodes ago, Delina from San Diego, she was saying that sometimes she's like acting as a host even when she's not at a showcase and just she's trying to find common threads between comics throughout the night because that always helps just to kind of keep people engaged as well. And I would agree with that. I think it works.
I don't know. Just as a comedy fan, I love that when the comics come up and riff off of each other. I always think it's funny, so
Yeah.
I'm for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, you said you before we start recording, you're preparing for a roast, right? So what's the setup there and how's it go? Or it's a roast battle, right?
Yeah, it's a roast battle at Dallas Comedy Club. It's the first one I've gotten to do. One of the first guys I met in comedy does roast battle comedy, and he kind of looks like Stephen King. You wouldn't expect him to be like a roast battle comic. He's an engineer. He's very funny, and he's wanted the majority of the ones he's done in Dallas. And so I had just been asking him about it, like the process and all that. I'm inherently a pretty nice guy, and so have you watched Crashing with Pete Holmes?
Yes.
you know the roast battle episode in Crashing?
When he talks to Tony Hinchcliffe at the bar ahead of time.
Yeah, or just
Yeah.
has trouble being mean to
Yes,
people. Like
yes.
that's the challenge for me. I like to be friends with everyone, and that's why I specifically want to do the roast battle. It's like I want to figure out, can I write clean enough roast jokes for my style, and still have them be funny. And I don't mind the being mean part. The guy I'm roasting is great. I got to know him last week, and he's super nice. But I'm looking forward to like flexing that muscle and figuring out like, okay, the quick responses on stage, how do I put a zinger back instead of a compliment or something, and so I think it'll be a new thing for me to learn. I'm really excited to get to do it. I've been to a couple of those roast battles, and there's such a great change from regular stand-up, which we see multiple nights a week, that I find myself laughing harder at those shows because it's just different and fun.
I mean, I get that too. You're inspiring me. There's one mic in Philly that I think that you do like you get like 3 minutes, and then I think it's 2 minutes of like riff and roast with the judges, and I'm like petrified to go to that because I the same as you. I can't be mean to people. I could be like a little snarky and like what in my material, but it's tough to be like to write that. I get it. It's not in your when it's not in your nature, but it's probably a little easier when you know the people obviously that you're roasting. I mean, it gives you something. I don't want to call it easy, but
It definitely helps. I have an idea. I've got to have 5 jokes and then 2 for overtime, and I'm pretty sure I've thought about it for 2 days, and I'm pretty sure like what the 5 jokes are going to be and like how they're going to be, like what they're going to target, and then I'll have to figure out what else I write that I could potentially pull in an overtime or something. But it's a brand new process for me. Unfortunately, I have a couple of friends that are into this that have given me some good guidance and stuff, but I'm excited to try it. I think it's going to be a blast.
it would be really cool. Do you well, you may have been at that Skank Fest with the roast of Louis J. Gomez.
I wasn't at that roast. The Skink Fest I went to was Vegas in 24. And I don't remember if that roast happened there or not, to be
Okay.
honest.
I forget. I would just remember watching it on YouTube, but that was one of my favorites for that reason. It's everyone knows each other and it's obviously like they're riffing and whatever. And like back in the day, I think the Bob Saget roast is probably one of the best with Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald's set on that's amazing.
Yeah.
I used to like those, the Comedy Central ones back in the
Yeah.
day, but roast battles have to be tough. They're fun to watch, but I have to go back and watch that episode of Crashing. I just remember Tony kind of doing like recon with Pete at the bar. Like Pete's just being
Yeah.
so nice and he just used everything against him in that
Yeah. It was funny watching that. I just watched that show recently, and I haven't had time or the like desire. I haven't found a show that I wanted to watch, and when I found out about Crashing, I watched the first episode, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna binge through this, and I loved it. And there's so many things, and I think it's so relevant for the podcast that you're running because it's like he's trying to start at 40,
Yeah.
recently divorced, and it's like there are so many things that he went through in that show that are like, I've been in a similar situation or I've dealt with something like that. Or watching the roast battle thing is like, I knew I was interested in those at the time. And it was like, oh, here's a nice guy struggling with a roast battle. So I'm getting ready to go through that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch that. I don't think I've watched a lot of other shows about stand up other than maybe Louis.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't seen that movie with Will Arnett or whatever, but I mean, stand up's like huge again, which is it's nice. It's nice to see. It's good. Like there's so many scenes in different cities. And what you were saying about the reason he started at 40 of like being divorced and things like that. I noticed there's a few common threads in like interviews that I've done. I know like you're a fan and you felt like you had more confidence and stuff like that, but I also have seen like and talked about maybe grief and loss and like overcoming something. And I mean, you could share as much as you want, but like, do you feel like there's parts of those experiences of life that stand up helps you push through?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. One, I got to the point when I was getting into my late 30s and turning 40 where it was like all I had done with my life was work, eat, sleep. And it was just this cycle of work, eat, sleep. And I didn't have friends outside of work and all that kind of stuff. And
Mm.
so as I was getting later into my 40s or later into my 30s, it was like, I want to do something that's for me to go out and have fun and make new friends, and get out of the house and just break the routine up a little bit. And stand up seemed like what a great way to do that. Like I can go out and hang out at a bar with my friends and have a couple of drinks and laugh and then come home and then go to work again. And it just broke that up. And at the same time, I'm I'm fairly extroverted. I'm great at talking to people, but I did have a bit of a stage fright. Wasn't real comfortable speaking in front of people, and I had some things like my weight and my physical health and things like that that were like, hey, I need to figure out a way to get a handle on them, so that like if I can make them a size where I can laugh about them or I can talk about them in front of strangers, then it's not that scary to deal with. And so I've
Mm,
lost 75 pounds in the last year, 10 inches off my waist. Like I've been getting into much better shape. Being in front
good
of
for
people
you.
has helped me care about my appearance, and something that I always had a quote that's like, oh, well, if you cared about the way people perceive you or view you, like you would never wind up looking like me. But uh, like getting up in front of people on the mic, like not wanting to be out of breath on stage, those are all things that have motivated me to like take better care of myself, make myself a better person. So it's really given me a lot of fulfillment in my personal life that I was missing. And what a fun way to get to do it.
Yeah, man. Dude, good for you. Kudos to that on the work. And like I can relate to a lot of what you're saying about the career stuff of just kind of like especially like 30 to 40 for me. I stopped producing shows and it was like yeah, like you said, eat, sleep, work. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
That
course.
should inspire people. And I think there's more of us at this age that are starting than people realize. And I hope that, these stories that we're sharing here will become more widespread and not just self-serving for my podcast. But I think it's an interesting niche to learn why people are doing it, why it's an
Well,
outlet for
I
people at
love
40.
I love the angle that you posted that you were working on this podcast. I was really excited to talk to you because it's done so much for me, and I think there is a perception out there that like if you don't start at 20, if you don't start in your early 20s, you can't make it. And like I understand it's a long grind, but I want to have plenty of years to go grind it out, so
Hmm.
it's something I really want to do. And there's plenty of examples of comics that started at Ronnie Dangerfield is one.
Yeah, he's the biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it is. I'm fortunate that I have the opportunity to do it. I'm fortunate that we have a great scene in Dallas that I can grow up in. And I'm just having the most fun in my life. It's great.
That's sick. That's really cool. I'm happy for you for that. And then we just met a half an hour ago. I'm really happy for you. Um, so what's a bit that you've been working on that you really like and that's been going well with audiences? And you don't have to share the whole thing, but
Yeah.
there's something
Oh,
you're working on.
well, I'll tell you this one because it's a fun kind of way that I've learned about my writing process. I won't do the whole bit, but I had been trying. I'm a big guy. I have been trying to write a joke about taking rideshare and taking Uber XLs. And I had tried different versions of it. Like there's an Uber Texas where like a guy in an F-250 picks you up, or like I had, and none of it ever really just worked. And then a few weeks ago, we have Waymo in Dallas. Do you have those up in Philly?
We're starting
Yeah.
to get them, and
Okay.
I'm not a fan. But yeah.
Yeah, so we have Waymo in Dallas, and I wrote a joke. I don't want to give. Well, it's the Waymo app. It tells me instead of Waymo, you need to weigh less. And it's like that. I was like, I can do the Uber XL joke and I can do the Waymo joke and tie them together. And it's like now it's one of the strongest bits I have. It's an easy closer for me because the way less pops really hard.
Hmm.
But it's been fun to be like, that's a joke I've been trying to write for like a year and a half and put together. And it finally was like, I thought of this Waymo pun, and then it's like, oh, wait, that goes with the Uber joke. Like now I can build this all into a joke.
Yeah.
And so it's been really cool to see that stuff come like back out of the catalog and wind up being a strong bit. And that's why it gives me patience on other jokes that aren't working yet. It's like I'm just gonna put that back in there and I'll be smarter later. I'll be better later. I'll know the better way to do this joke and keep writing stuff that is working. So
Solid. Yeah, that's great. It's a great joke.
thanks.
So, I see why you run the writers group. Like, and how many people usually come to that on the Discord?
We usually get 4 to 10.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be able to do comedy from home for a night. You don't have to leave the house. I can cook dinner, do laundry,
Hmm.
work with the writing group. Everyone typically gets about 10 minutes to work on one of their jokes, and we help with tags. And sometimes it's like, hey, watch my set. You have any feedback? Stuff like that. But it's been a great group of people, and it's been awesome to watch. I think comedy, from my understanding and from my observation, like comedians kind of develop in groups. I don't think there's oftentimes a lot of places where it's like, oh, this one person just made it out completely on their own.
Hmm.
And you get the Boston group of guys, like the Bill Burr and that era.
True.
You get the LA group, the Comedy Store guys that came up in the Rogan sphere. Like there's kind of groups that do well together. And I'm a big believer in team building and networking. And so like trying to connect comics that are at a similar place in their career here in Dallas, that are working at a similar level, to work together to get better. Seeing the jokes that you worked on as a group hit on stage is a really great feeling, even when it's not your joke. It's like, hey, we worked together to make that joke funny. And it gives you the opportunity to build great relationships and have friends that are just committed to also continuing to improve. And it's the rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's really true. That's true. And yeah, to have a good scene, that's a blessing to have that and those kind of that group. And so what's a bit that you really like, or let me say this, one that's kind of just for you in the comics in the back of the room. Maybe it doesn't work for the audience, but you'll do it at an open mic.
I have a couple jokes that I do just for comics, because when it is that open mic and there's no crowd, and it's like they've heard XYZ bit 10 times, like what's the point in just wasting their time to run it? I do one. So I talked about Backdoor Comedy Club. It's a clean club, and there's a set of guidelines they have for appropriate material there. And so there's a term in Dallas that's backdoor clean. And so I'll make a bidet joke at an open mic and be like, okay, maybe bidet is not that funny on its face, but it is backdoor clean. And that
Yeah.
always gets a laugh with the comics. I have another one that I do about, I have a bit, I had a couple of surgeries last year, and I do a bit about mistakenly telling the staff that I'm a comedian, and they make me do material like a Patch Adams kind of thing. And I always tell the comics, like, hey, if you crush in the staff break room, like they'll give you all the morphine you want, like mashing that like an 8-year-old kid at a Mortal Kombat machine. But so I have a couple like that are like, oh, it's mostly comics in the room, so I'm going to tell you guys this.
Yeah.
To try to make the comics laugh. It's at least like a side quest if your
Yeah.
regular material is just going to go flat. So that's a good question.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. It's one of my favorite things. It's like if I'm going up, if I'm the 30th person at an open mic and there's 10 comics left and I'm getting laughs, I'm like, all right, this is works. At least that's good for me.
Well, I have comic friends that will complain about those kinds of rooms at times, or like, oh, it's difficult, or I don't get any feedback. And it's like, but I understand the sentiment, and it is tough to do those mics sometimes, especially when you sat there for 2 hours to get
Hmm.
up and not, to get crickets. But I always feel that like, your job as a comedian is to go up there and make people laugh. And if your audience is comics, figure out how to make them laugh. Like
Yeah,
that's your job, So it's a
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm with you there.
good to build that muscle,
It is good to build that muscle. And if you're doing the material that you intended to do anyway for the audience and you're getting laughs from the comics, I think that's doubly funny. And I've yet to be, well, I think I've been at one mic where it was only comics and there's like five of us the whole time. We're like, all right, we'll just run some jokes. And that was probably the toughest and most nervous I've been because I don't know these people. And it wasn't on a stage. It was kind of in the middle of like a room. We're just kind of hanging out. It was weird, but it is tough. And I'm gonna lose my train of thought there. But I agree that like yeah, flex the muscle, do something maybe a little more absurd or whatever. Take a risk and see. Maybe you'll get that feedback or like you like make a friend, I guess, right, and talk afterwards about it, which is good.
Yeah, and you mentioned crowd work a little earlier in the interview, and I'm
Mm.
not at the point where I'm really comfortable doing crowd work yet either, but I'm at the point now where that's an opportunity that I need to use. Let me just crowd work the comics and just get used to like
Mm.
asking the questions and trying to figure out how the responses come back. Good time to try all that stuff, I think, in a relatively safe environment.
That's cool. That's a good point. Yeah. It's crowd work, same as like roast stuff, is just something that, it's another set of skills that you have to develop and you don't realize it's not like a natural, it doesn't really come with the territory of doing stand up because a lot of people are just going to get up there. I was like, this is my material. That's it. And I think sometimes when doing that, you don't come off as confident as you should. If you're able to at least interact with the crowd, like that's where I've seen a bit of an evolution and what I can notice about myself. It's like I can respond to the crowd if they say something back and things like that, but I'm not actively seeking material from them.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point, and I think there's two things, especially as like a newer comic where I am looking at more host spots. You don't want to work the crowd a ton, but I have seen some guys go up and start a little soft, and they'll ask a question or two to the crowd. It gets the crowd talking. It starts to pull them in. They get back into some material. They're not overworking them, but it's just that little interaction. Same as just having that quick 10-second punch at the top of your act. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
make the crowd laugh immediately in your set, you get so much more lenience on running a longer joke or something that doesn't have enough tags. And so I think those are two really, I won't say underrated, but I think they're really important tips
Yeah.
for folks that are in our level of experience.
That's a great point. Yeah, the 10 seconds up front is huge. I think that's even if the joke doesn't have anything to do with the rest of your material, you got a hook. Like sometimes I'll write a joke while I'm sitting in the room, just like, all right, this is topical. Like I'll read the news if something's funny in a headline or whatever, just like quick pop and then go into my stuff. And that always makes it like a better set for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so who inspires you?
Uh, my favorite comics are probably like Sam Talent, Kyle Kinane. I like Doug Stanhope. Mark Norman's a great joke writer. Ian Fidance has great energy on stage.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah.
I mean, there's some of the obvious, like Shane Gillis is hilarious, but
Hmm.
the guys that are more, I like to be a little absurd, a little funny, like in terms of questioning. I like to question a lot of stuff, and I'm more conversational, and so I kind of like the guys that can build. Joe List is one of the best storytellers, and I love the way that he can insert characters into his bits. And so it's like now I'm having there's a bit he does in Small Ball. It's him talking to his wife, and then the doctor is there, and then the nurse is there, and they all have things to say, and they all react from each other. It's almost a skit, the way that he tells the joke. And so I really enjoy seeing ways to. I'm not just the story that like I can tell you, but then how can I interject other perspectives and points of view, and how do you play with the tension from those things? That's what I'm trying to learn how to write better at this phase in my career. How to use misdirection better. And so some of those guys, like Sam Talent's just kind of a goofy big guy, and
Yeah.
so I see some of myself in what he does. And Kyle Kinane, Doug Stanhope, a little absurd, a little cynical. I like both of those.
Love Stanhope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some of my big, probably what I'd say are inspirations.
That's the names that have come up a lot in my in the very I think you're the seventh episode here, but Sam Talent's come up several times, Kyle Kinane as well. Did you read Running the Light, by the way?
Yes. Fantastic
Awesome
book.
book. I can't
Yeah.
wait till it's a movie. Cannot
Yeah.
wait. And he's got another, I forget the name of it, but I know he's been promoting his next book comes out in September. Pretty
Yep.
sure I'm on the pre-order list, pre-sale,
Yep.
whatever it is. Yeah, man.
Yep. I'll definitely pre-order that. But yeah,
Yeah.
Running the Light. If anyone watching this has not read Running the Light and you're considering or you do stand-up comedy, like it's a must read.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
It's
And
phenomenal.
he's an incredible writer. It's
Yes.
just I'm so jealous of that. And he's fun. He's funny and absurd in his stand-up, as you said. He's just a big, funny guy.
Yeah, and for us comics, it's only like 250 pages, so it's like not that hard to get
It's
through.
not that hard. No, it's a pretty quick read. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just have two more questions, really. Are you concerned with your legacy at all? And if so, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Um, I don't know that I would say I've really put a lot of thought into something like legacy. I think just generally as a person, I want to be like liked by the people around me in terms of like easy to get along with, fun hang. Really enjoy talking to this guy, that kind of stuff. And if I can make some great friends and that helps make my life a little better through the process, then I don't think you can ask for a lot more than that. So I just want to I would like to be a good example to people, just in terms of how to do things the right way, if that
I
makes
like that.
sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's poignant. Um, and what would your younger self say now about your choice?
One of my jokes that I've closed with for the majority of my comedy career is a conversation between 8-year-old Kevin and 40-year-old Kevin. I won't. The punchline doesn't make sense for this question, but I think younger me would be pretty impressed of the the confidence and the I hate to use the word courage, but it takes that at first. But like to be able to go do that and to be funny and to have good friends like that, all of those things I think are things I'm very proud of that I've been able to do with this, and it's helped me with personal relationships and talking to people I don't know, even outside of comedy. Just it's given me a whole nother level of confidence that I think I've always been wanting to have, but never figured out how to get it.
I get that. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, that's really cool. Good answers. Hey man, this has really been cool. I'm so glad we met. Thank you for responding to the call for comics. Hope we chat again and cross paths at some point. Is there anything you want to share or plug? This will probably be out first week in June. So
Okay. I've got by that point, I'm doing something, a show in Pilot Point with Amanda French at a coffee house up there. Supposed to have a great room. I've got something at the Comedy Arena in McKinney, a stand-up showdown thing that's in June. And then my Sunday shows at Backdoor Comedy, Sundays 6 p.m. Come out and see some of the best like local talent that there is in Dallas that are on the rise. We've got great lineups and great comics down there. Really fortunate to have the opportunity to do that.
cool. Kevin Kirklen, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate it.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation.
You're welcome. Me too.